All right, back to basics for a second, because I had someone ask me this week how something as seemingly insignificant as emotional repression can create so much suffering. It's like, what's the big deal about burying and repressing emotions in childhood, right? How does that affect my life as an adult? And my answer was only in every way. In fact, your buried repressed emotions are likely creating, at least in part, your entire sense of self as an adult. The mechanics of it are this. Let's say a young girl has a dominant father. She's conditioned that in order to survive, in other words, to stay safe and get love in her family, she must fear anger, other people's and her own. So she pushes her anger down. She starts to repress it, and she starts to believe things like anger is bad. Now, this is a really important juncture and point to make, because it's where a lot of people get lost when they listen to us talk about emotional repression work or when they're doing emotional repression work. When human beings repress and push down emotions, they're compelled to start believing things about themselves, about others, and about the world. So with this young girl, she has to believe anger is bad, I'm a good person, dad's a bad person, and I'm unsafe. And remember, to her, those don't register as beliefs. They feel like reality because that's her experience with her father's anger and dominance. So all those beliefs, anger's bad, dad's a bad person, I'm a good person, I'm unsafe, subtly, little by little over time, become her sense of self. Some people call this the ego, but it's basically just like a mass of core beliefs that has one function. And that, of course, is for her as an anger repressor to keep her from acknowledging, accessing, feeling, or expressing her buried and repressed anger from childhood. So as she grows into an adult and that anger stays repressed, her beliefs start to evolve. So maybe now anger is bad becomes anger is abusive. Maybe dad's a bad person becomes angry men or narcissists, or people are out to get me. Maybe I'm a good person becomes I'm a highly sensitive person, or an empath, or a Christian. And I'm unsafe probably just stays the same. I'm unsafe. And the crazy irony here is that she has to believe all of those things, including I'm unsafe, to keep herself safe, which is to say to keep herself from having to acknowledge, access, feel, or express her buried and repressed anger. The threat is on the inside, but she doesn't know it because she's believing a bunch of stuff. And this would be the same, by the way, for a hurt repressing little girl or boy, except the content of their beliefs would probably be different. But my point is that when people are in emotional repression, their entire lives become about avoiding the emotion that's buried that they're most afraid of, and believing anything and everything in order to stay away from it, including identities like I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a Christian, I'm an atheist, I'm a husband, I'm a wife. Deficiency stories like I'm not good enough, I'm unwanted, there's something wrong with me, I'm unsafe. Religious or spiritual beliefs like Jesus loves me, all is one, everything happens for a reason, we're all alone in the universe. Diagnoses like I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm an addict, I'm a chronic pain sufferer. Positive identities like I'm healed or I'm awakened or I'm saved. Political identities, I'm liberal, I'm conservative. You get the idea. All of that, if we're not doing something to resolve our emotional repression, is avoidance. We're bypassing the root of suffering, which is emotional repression, by believing things. Yeah, it's safer to believe things and suffer than it is to come out of emotional repression. I know I say this over and over again, but it bears repeating because it's so important. When we bury what's true, certain emotions in childhood, we're forced to identify with what's false, which are beliefs, belief systems, identities, and worldviews. And so if you're someone who's suffering and you don't know why, it's because you're believing a belief, belief system, identity, or worldview that you don't know that you're believing yet, right? And you're doing it in order to stay emotionally repressed or safe. And so the simplest way to explain how we end suffering in KI is this. We reverse the process. We challenge anything and everything that we're believing in order to come out of emotional repression. If that sounds ridiculous to you, don't come do KI. If that sounds terrifying to you, don't come do KI. If that sounds mildly interesting to you, don't come do KI. If that sounds like something for down the road, don't come do KI now. If that sounds appealing to you, then tap the link in the caption or the bio.